Okay, welcome everyone to our webinar today, Building a Sensory-Friendly Home. I am so pleased to introduce Natalie Castro, who is an educator, an advocate, and a sister to an adult with special needs. Natalie, thanks for being here. I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Of course. Well, thank you so much, Sylvia. I want to say how grateful I am. I know each of us have, busy lives, especially being a parent or a sibling or a caretaker to a special loved one. So thank you so much for being here. It's my intention with this meeting that it's very interactive, that you ask me any and all questions that you have, and that I am a resource to you even after this webinar. So as Sylvia said, I am a co-guardian to my sister, Angie. She is going to be 30 years old this year. And I'm her big sister. I have always been involved in everything and anything that she's done, from her therapy sessions to her summer camps, because when I was little as a sibling, I truly felt like my sister hated me. I was 8 years old, and Angie had a lot of behaviors growing up, aggressive ones actually, and she would always direct that aggression towards me when we were little. And as a sibling, I heard from, my friends at school, all the fun things that they did that weekend. And I usually did not have anything to share because I was kind of almost embarrassed of what I had at home, because I'm like, well, you get to play with your siblings and I don't. So, I went through a lot as a sibling, but it wasn't until a speech therapist actually advocated on my behalf, and my parents had told her what was going on at home with me and my sister. And the speech therapist said, can I please have Natalie come into a session? I really want to teach her how her sister communicates. And because of that speech therapist, after that moment, I became so obsessed with understanding Angie that I asked if I can please come to almost every therapy session. If you have siblings, you know that they're probably very involved in the therapy sessions, as I was. So when she was teaching me all of Angie's communication, how she communicated, she was nonverbal till she was 9. So, what was Angie's best way of communication, how to redirect her. And I learned this all when I was 8 years old. And it started becoming to a point where I saw other kids in the therapy office as well. And I really just wanted to volunteer, not just understand Angie's autism diagnosis, but I wanted to understand other children with special needs as well. So I'm really grateful for that speech therapist. She truly changed my life from that moment when she offered that to my parents. So from that kind of started my journey as, being a volunteer. I even babysat a lot for families of kids with special needs. I involved myself in summer camps. I opened my own therapy center, and I worked in the schools. Like I did it all because I truly just felt like there was so much to learn. And one of the things that really stood out to me from not just my sister and what we went through as a family, but being able to help so many other families, is the true value and definition of what a team looks like. And I know for a lot of you, your child's team looks a little bit different, right? You have your teachers, some children are homeschooled, you have advocates, you have therapists, you have music teachers or sports teachers. And every single one of those are so crucial to your child's development and to their dynamic, that when I started working with families, I said to myself, how do we bring all of the goals, from the speech therapist to the OT to the ABA therapist to the teacher to their soccer coach? Like, how do we bring all of that into the home? Because ideally, that's where us families need the most help, right? We take our siblings or our children to school, we take them to extracurricular activities, and we expose them in that environment. But what about home, right? How do we grab all of that? So, my career led me to a path of real estate design. And sometimes when I tell families that, they're like, wait, how does real estate design have like how did that pathway come for you? And it truly came, my profession and my career expanded when Angie went through different life stages. When Angie turned an adult and she aged out of high school, we had no day programs. We had no one to tell us what to do with Angie during the day. That was it for us. So at the time, I did own a pediatric therapy office in Florida. It was called Pieces of Inspiration. And I went to school full time, managed a therapy office, and I took care of my sister full time, doing all of it. And I was really grateful for my team back then, but it started making me think, like, what are we doing teaching families of all of these children with all these variety of diagnoses, what are we doing just having them in the therapy office if we're not helping these families in the home? So what I would do with my clients is that I would grab all their developmental goals. I would grab all the goals from the teachers, all the goals from anybody in their team. And I would sit down with the parents and say, this is how we're going to adapt your home. This is how we're going to achieve daily goals and daily tasks and create a sensory friendly environment for your child to thrive in. Because what happens when we can help families create that in the home, we're doing a few things, right? We're helping the child feel understood and connected to themselves, which then we see maximum growth in their developmental milestones. Then we start seeing with siblings, when we start teaching siblings the why and the reason behind what we're doing for those home adaptations, they feel a stronger connection to their sibling of how to help them. And they feel like so important. Like the amount of siblings that loved when I got them involved with the whole planning and adapting, I saw stronger connections. And I love that part. I also saw stronger relationships within the parents and their parenting and being able to feel like, wow, we're not alone in this. So creating a sensory environment is not just about, looking on Amazon about what are the best fidget toys or what are the best toys or tools for sensory emotional regulation or gross motor skills. It's so much more beyond that, because I want to teach families how to grab the goals of their child's team. And I want the family and the parent or the sibling to feel very confident in doing this themselves. So I created a system for it. And I'm going to go over that system with you guys today. So when we get into creating that home, one of the first things that I teach families is how do you grab all the goals from your child's IEP, the teacher's goals, the therapy goals, and how do you break it down to achievable daily habits? Because at the end of the day, we have therapists, we have so many of our child's professionals telling us things, but in reality, I think it's hard, especially if they don't live with a child with special needs. I sometimes feel like it's a little bit difficult for them to understand what our daily life looks like, right? So I help families break it down in achievable goals and do it little by little. So a good example is my sister Angie, and if anyone's willing to share one of their child's goals, I would actually love to be interactive in this group. So if you're wanting to share one of your child's goals and how we can implement it in one of your house home environments, I would love to do that. So with Angie, she had a goal in high school for independence with life skills. Now, life skills is a pretty broad term, right? There's the laundry, there's the dishes, there's cooking, there's finances, there's all these little goals. But as a family, we had to think to ourselves, okay, what area in the home is going to help us help Angie be able to be more independent in first? So we chose self-care as one of the main goals for independent to teach. Okay, Heather, my daughter's current primary goal is speech. Okay, perfect. And Heather, can you also share, sorry, I'm trying to also put up the chat on the side here. Can you also share if your child has any siblings at home, in which area in the home you would like me to talk about for that goal of speech? And also what communication preference does your child have? If they're nonverbal, if they have an AAC device, or they do sign language? Tell me a little bit more. And thank you so much. I'll share that example. So with Angie, when we had to do a lot of self-care goals, I had to think about that daily goal of modeling. So for Angie to become independent, a lot of her therapists said Angie does very well with modeling in a visual schedule. So we created in the home that same visual schedule that the therapist recommended. And I also had Angie model my behavior every morning. So I actually shared a room with my sister for many years just for this purpose of teaching her how to do her self-care needs every day. And that really helped her as well. And that's what we decided as a family. So when Angie would wake up in the morning, she would wake up with me. She would brush her teeth with me. She would do her makeup with me. She would do her hair with me. And little by little, that daily habit became, I would say it took us 6 months to really dive in and help her with her morning routine. But again, that was an easy, achievable goal that we did based on the goals that all her teachers and her therapist had. Okay, let me go ahead and go in the chat here. Okay, she has a few words. Time management. Okay, so Heather, I want you to go ahead and unmute yourself. You don't have to show yourself on video if you don't want to, but I want this to be really interactive. So your daughter's 6, her current primary goal is speech. She has a few words. She does not currently use an AAC device at home. I am working on this. She currently uses gestures to communicate. She has an older sister who is 8. Perfect. So Heather, do you mind unmuting yourself? Give you a second there. Okay, so, and maybe there's a reason there for a second. Hold on. Oh, I am trying. Okay, I'll go ahead and just wait for you, Heather. But while we're talking about this, so if Heather comes up to me and she's telling me all the things that I just read to you, that her daughter's 6, her primary goal is speech, she has a few words, and she does not currently use an AAC device, but she is working on this. Now, this is something that I would communicate with her child's speech language pathologist, with anyone on her team, and I would have a meeting with them and I would say, okay, guys, the goal is for us to integrate speech into the home. What are some ways that we can do that? So hypothetically, if her speech language pathologist said, you know, right now we're working on gestures because we're going to transition into AAC very soon. So it's really important to let the speech therapist kind of like drive that, because with AAC, there's 5 different phases, and you want to make sure that you're teaching your child the right phase and you go through the phases correctly with AAC and PECs. So let's say Amy said, okay, Natalie, I want to practice this in, let's say, the kitchen. Okay, great. What we're going to do is we're going to create sibling interaction opportunities for that socialization for Amy's 2 daughters. Okay, how do we do this? Now in the kitchen, I love the kitchen because I also feel like a lot of children with special needs have a difficult time with food aversions. So the kitchen's a really fun, interactive place. So what I always say is if your child is less than 10 and they are learning how to communicate in speech, modeling is going to be the best behavior. So what I have advised parents in the past is go ahead and go on Amazon and get your child's own bowl, your child's own mixing bowls, or like a play set of, you know, cutting vegetables with you, or just any interactive fun that your child can do with you, because children learn how to communicate through modeling. And by having them even be next to us or interact with the sibling in the kitchen really helps build that socialization for them, and you communicating with gestures all the time. Because what happens with a lot of families is that we go through like our daily tasks every day and we just do it to do it, but we're not giving ourselves the time and the opportunity to teach at the same time of doing those tasks. So something like cooking, Angie absolutely loved all the time doing it with me. So when we were little, what my family would do with this is to teach Angie communication is we would grab fake food items. So let's say we were making spaghetti that day. My parents would have the fake pile of spaghetti food, and then we would have the real pile of spaghetti food. And they would have Angie model the behavior of, okay, now we're mixing the spaghetti in the bowl. You know, do you want more spaghetti? Saying thank you, saying I want. So just the different gestures to be able to practice that on a daily habit will be awesome. It can feel overwhelming for families to do this in every environment with everything they do during the day. So that's why I only suggest one setting for you to work on this. So then that way it's achievable. And if you're able to carry this over during like bath time or morning routine or night routine, that's great. But just for the more like achievable daily habits, just work on one setting a day to really focus on like, okay, this is the time and place I'm going to be implementing these goals. Okay. Does anyone have any questions regarding that? Okay. So after we go ahead and determine what the daily habit is for that goal, the next step is having a sibling and family talk. A lot of the times, yes. Oh, I love it. Utah Jumps for Autism. I've heard so much about you. So yes, if you raise your hand, please feel free to unmute yourself. I want this to be a really interactive webinar, or you can write in the chat if you're unable to unmute yourself. So
Yeah,
the
can I share
next,
something real quick? I
yes,
apologize.
absolutely.
Forgive me.
No, please do.
Man, I just had an event last night. It was a Valentine's Build a Card. Um,
Okay.
and it was an amazing experience for myself as a father to my son that's on the spectrum. And and that's probably the challenge, the challenge that I'm currently facing with, in a sense. So he's nonverbal. And the thing is, he does not want to be in the home. And so
He wants to be
because
out all the time. Is that what
yeah,
you're?
and so he always
Okay.
shared, like, his only one word that I kind of installed in myself to be a trigger for me, so I'm aware of it, is a bye-bye. So when he says bye-bye, that means bye-bye. So I
Mm,
I acknowledge that, because that's his only word, and regardless of the
okay.
situation or how the atmosphere, the environment is, or the weather, I remove him, because I don't know anything else in the sense of what's going through him mentally. So because when he says bye bye, I know that he's feeling something that I'm not aware of, and so I remove him out so he can better tell me what I can do to be better, not to be weird spiritually. And I've been in tune with my feelings. So as a father, it's huge for me,
I love
because
that.
growing up, I'm not a sensitive person, especially in the Polynesian culture. So I'm learning, and it took my nonverbal son to express that emotionally with a whole bunch of different body languages and self-harm, in the sense that society itself will scare us. But man, he has taught me to be sensitive and to be in tune with my feelings. And that's something I'm still learning with. And so my son has taught me a lot to be better, not only as a father, but as a husband. So I'm doing this because my wife is amazing, and she does so much with, we have 4 children, and she homeschools all 4, and because of this one
Awesome.
child. And so again, you can only do so much in the home. And reason why I started this, I'm not promoting nothing, but this business called Jump for Autism, because I've learned that they like to express themselves through physical activity. And
Yeah.
so because I'm so into sports, I've given up things personally to be better present with my children. And again, like, I'm learning that when my son has a sleeping disorder and list of other challenges, but he jumps for hours. And again, I'm learning, like, in different environments and like just doing events itself. It's not that I'm trying to be somebody, but I want my son to be normal in an environment to where I go into places and I wish that somebody say something about my son, just so I can advocate, because I'm learning that my wife is so in tune with his feelings that she protects him from the outdoor. And so me, I'm like, nah, I'm gonna take him. Like, I take him everywhere. And when he has a meltdown, I respect it. That's his little sacred way of letting it all out, and I let him do it. And I sit around and I wait and I hope somebody says something to me. And it's not to create any argument, but it's the opportunity for me to advocate for my son. And again, I'm sorry I'm sharing so much. It's just you don't find parents
You're
that
okay.
like to meet like this, you know. But it's a female platform. It's a female dominant platform, and I'm learning that, because it's like I go to this meeting, it's nothing but females, and I respect you guys. I worship you guys because you guys do so much. It's challenging because there's no fathers present, and I know there are out there, but they're just not out and about with it and pushing the awareness. Because again, he has siblings, and my fear is if I die tomorrow, I don't want to place this upon their role for them to do this, in the sense of, like, because it's a challenge and it's so much. And I definitely don't want him, in a sense, to be of a burden to his younger siblings. And so by me just advocating and pushing this out and coming across groups like this, it helps me be better in ways to create things outdoors, outside of the home, just by being present in this. So again, I'm gonna stop. I appreciate you allowing me to just get things out so I can better understand. but let me
You're
know
good.
other things too to be better. Come here, buddy. Okay, thank you so much.
So I love that you talked about the outdoors. I actually have a client that his son really feels more connected to himself when he explores nature. And I think just because we talk about a diagnosis, that we get rid of the root of what makes all of us human, and that is the power of connection. And that is how we figure out about ourselves. So children with special needs they depend on us to help them find those answers because of their communication and how they're able to, how they have more struggles communicating that with us. We have to play the puzzle piece, right? Of how do we connect the dots? So what I love about what you said about outside, here's the thing. The home is where everyone connects. My sister always wanted to be in the pool. She always wanted to be outside. But how do we integrate that into the home? Because there might be a missing piece that we can tell ourselves, okay, well, maybe there's one area inside of the home that we can adapt to be able to provide our child that sensory input of jumping, like a mini trampoline, or just different, ideas. Because what happens is, when a child can connect to themselves within the home, they are able to connect more and more in their community. Not saying that they can't connect in their community because they don't connect in their home just yet, but the home is going to be your foundation. And that's what I teach. When we can adapt certain spaces to be able to serve what they need, that's when we start seeing really cool connections with not just understanding as parents, but having the siblings understand as well. So I love that you brought that up. I have a few suggestions for you if you would like afterwards, like a list of items that my outdoor loving kiddos love inside of the home. And also remember, like, when kids go to school, when kids go to therapy centers or kids go to community settings, there's usually stuff out there that are not in our house, right? Like, a lot of us don't have rock climbing walls in our house or the things that a therapy office has. So with that, how can we create that environment? So the daily habits for goal setting, some of you might look like, okay, well, one of my goal settings is going to be in the kitchen today. My other one's going to be a morning routine. The other one, some of you might be the dining table because you're helping your children with food aversion. You as a parent know your child best, and you as a parent will know which environment to start in first. So when we talk about the sibling and the family talk, this is where I really like to advocate for siblings. And a lot of my clients will say, nah, I'm having a little bit of a hard time explaining to the siblings what's going on because I'm still trying to understand what's going on. And that's okay. That's what you have a team for. So these are the things I always encourage parents to do is, if your child's in a therapy session, if you're at an IEP meeting, if the sibling is over like 10 years old, involve them in those meetings. You would be so surprised of how much they're able to retain and understand about their sibling when you involve them in that. Okay. Because what's going to happen is that they're going to be your best communicators with your special loved one at home. I always say siblings have like such a power. When I train law enforcement on autism as well. And I always ask this question. I said, if you were in a home environment or any environment with the parents and the siblings, who would the child with special needs be able to communicate to best at that moment? And they say the parent. I'm like, it's the siblings statistically. And there's a reason for that, is because other siblings are continuously wanting to play with them and they want to be closer to them because of the age. So with the sibling and family talk, it's really important that no matter what the sibling's age is, that you're very transparent with them. Like, for example, how he shared that he has 4 kids. Okay. It's so important that you're transparent with the other 3 kids of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis for your child with special needs. So that way they can help understand, because it's not just the parents that are the biggest advocates, it's also the siblings that are the biggest advocates as well. And then the 4th step is going to be product links and then resources. So, I have a lot of families ask me, Natalie, can you just like create a Amazon list of things that we should have for sensory? Sure, absolutely. Are there things that you can create for gross motor? Sure, absolutely. Like, you're starting to see things on Pinterest, and more families are becoming aware of how to set up a sensory space for their child. That's fantastic when it comes to emotional regulation. teaching the parents what to do with that space for their child's specific goals is the next step, right? So right now I'm currently adapting my laundry room for my sister. She's 29. So that life skill is really important for us, for her to learn independently. And I'm making it fun and whimsical. She loves fairies. So I'm trying to make it like more of a whimsical environment. But the biggest thing is, how do I design a whimsical space while also offering her resources and opportunities for her to be independent? So for example, and I'll email Sylvia my personal list that I have for Angie, but there's a laundry sorter with a tabletop for her to fold clothes. And in addition to that, there's it's actually great for little kids too, but it's like a folding tray, and you put a shirt in and it folds it perfectly. So that's easy for Angie to do. And then I also am having like a magnetic frame where I'm putting the schedule of, white clothes. This is the symbols that you put on the washing machine to be able to do white clothes. This is what you do for delicate clothes. And I'm creating a visual schedule because Angie works the best with visual schedules, not written. Okay. And then the fifth step is how to get your team involved. This is one of the most critical steps, because what happens with a lot of children is they go to all of their team members and they're all in different offices and they're not communicating with each other. So it leaves it on the parent to be able to say, okay, guys, this is what OT is working on. Can you please implement this in your other sessions? And that was my role in my therapy office was, we had speech OT and PT, but we didn't have ABA. So it was my role to always make sure that our clients' ABA therapists or even teachers understood what we were doing at the therapy office. And when we were able to get that like system down of being able to share what we were doing with that child, we saw massive growth in weeks and months when everybody was on the same page. When the behavior therapist shared with speech OT, PT, and the teacher, hey, this is what we do for a reinforcement chart. Or when OT shared, hey, this is what I help with emotional regulation. So, providing families that system is really important as well, because once the foundation of that system is great within the team, that's when you're going to be able to implement it the most effectively at home. And then also how to get the team involved. So I have an online course called Autism Friendly Homes. Now it's called Autism Friendly Homes because for so many years I specialize in autism, where I am specializing in other diagnoses like Down syndrome and other intellectual and developmental diagnoses. But in this course, I teach this, and I want to give away one of those course spots to someone in this group today to be able to go through that process and be able to understand, okay, this is how I go ahead and create that sensory friendly home for my child. So now that I've explained kind of the system and the foundation, I really want to ask, Heather, were you able to unmute yourself so we can go ahead and chat about your daughter?
Yes, I figured it.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So Heather, let's chat. And what's your daughter's name?
Olivia.
Olivia, you said?
Yes.
Oh, I love it. That's my cousin's name. Okay, Heather. So tell me a little bit about Olivia. What professionals are on her team currently?
She has a speech therapist at school.
Okay.
Occupational therapy, but I can't remember what her IEP says. She's pretty good as far as she doesn't have many physical limitations.
Okay. Perfect. And then speech OT school, and what type of classroom setting is she in?
She's in a mixed.
Okay. Perfect. And then she has one sibling, you said?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Now, besides communication, what's another challenge that you would love some support in for Olivia at home? Is it maybe a morning routine, a nighttime routine?
No, we've got our nighttime routine down really well.
Okay.
She has ADHD, and we're just the beginnings of a new medication for that. So
okay.
Some of her behaviors are changing.
Okay.
So I don't know how to forecast that.
Okay. So as far as communication goes, would you love to see more play time with the sibling? Would you like to see maybe more independence in a certain area at home? Would you like to see more emotional regulation techniques for her? Tell me a little bit about like what your focus would be for your daughter's team to help her work on.
I want her sister and I to be able to understand her so she doesn't get so frustrated. Because when she gets frustrated, like she lashes out.
So siblings. So right now, the biggest support you would need is sibling understanding for her.
And the
Okay. And the communication. Okay. And right now, you said that she does gestures and that you're working on the AAC device. I'm assuming you're waiting for school.
When I talked to her pediatrician about it, the pediatrician said to ask the school. When I asked the school about it, they would like have me go with it's SNAP core SNAP, and they wouldn't do an AAC evaluation like with everything that's available. It just, this was one, so I didn't go down that road, and
Okay.
I'm working on getting an appointment at our local children's hospital
For private therapy.
For an AAC evaluation.
For an AAC evaluation. Okay.
Yes.
And right now she's gesturing. Okay.
Yeah. And like when I ask her what she wants for lunch or dinner, and she actually hasn't the ability to give me input, I do picture exchange communication.
The PECS. Okay. Which PECS is going to be the initial part, the initial before the AAC. I feel like in schools, we teach PECS before the AAC, sometimes depending on the child. So it's fantastic you're utilizing PECS. Now, a big thing that I would suggest is having the sibling actually help with the communication and have the sibling request for Olivia. So teaching your sibling, if you were to say, okay, and what's your other daughter's name?
Amelia.
Amelia. Oh, cute. That's my grandma's name. Okay. So if you were to ask Amelia, okay, Amelia, I really want to help Olivia with requesting some of her favorite snacks. Do you mind sitting with me for 5 minutes? And then siblings are usually really great with that if you reward them with something like a favorite activity or a favorite snack for themselves. And you ask Amelia, okay, Amelia, I want you to ask your sister Olivia, would you like more goldfish? And then let the siblings almost have that interaction, because a lot of the times kids will have more of an interaction with other children more than the parent, because they see the parent as more of like that professional and therapist requesting from them, not necessarily like more of that same age like difference. So if you were to have Amelia do that for 5 minutes every day, one, you're having a daily habit of helping Amelia understand her sister's communication. And then two, you're also encouraging Olivia to communicate with a peer around her same age, right? So you're getting two things in one setting. Now it could be like getting the nighttime routine together. So if you feel like you have a routine down packed, also try to involve the sibling in that as well if you're not already, and say, okay, Amelia, I'm going to go ahead and do your sister's nighttime routine. Do you want to do it with us? And then make it fun for both of them. And then as you're doing each routine, teach Amelia, why you do a certain routine. So give me an example of a routine at night that you do for Olivia.
It's pretty
like
basic.
Specifically to her. It's okay. It's pretty basic. Okay. So like bath time, brush teeth, all that, pretty basic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basic.
Perfect. Okay. And she doesn't struggle with like any parts of that routine. Like she doesn't have any, struggle with like brushing her teeth versus taking a bath or anything.
Not typically.
Okay. So for children with ADHD and sensory integration within bath time is so important for their nighttime routine if you're not already doing it. So one of the things I always suggest for bath time is getting like those light up balls that go in the water, turning off the lights in the bathroom and putting the ocean projector, like a stars projector, just like a $15 one you can get on Amazon, and doing that during the night routine to help them regulate. because children with ADHD are going to need that in their nighttime routine and morning routine. And while you're doing that type of activity, one, you're making the bath time and nighttime routine sensory friendly, and you're also teaching Amelia why Olivia needs that during the nighttime. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I had no idea that they had light up balls.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So those are my favorite. I will send links. Bath time routine is one of my favorites for children with special needs, and to also implement it with siblings, because one, it helps regulate them during nighttime. They like sleep is so important for children with ADHD. It helps them be more regulated during the day, helps them focus more. So when we're able to do more of like a sensory spa type of environment during bath time, you will see major differences in the morning with them. And the siblings love it. I mean, who doesn't love like ocean projectors and a whole sensory experience during bath time, right? So whenever we talk about sensory, we want to make sure we have the 5 senses with us. Now with bath time, for taste, that's a little bit different. But one thing that I've always suggested is after bath time, have like a tea, or have like a cold tea for them when they get out of the bath, or have like a piece of lemon or something that you feel that they would really love for that taste. But for touch, I always suggest for bath time, the surgical brushes that OTs use. And it's just for them to feel it. I'll again send Sylvia a whole link of this, and they're able to like brush their hands, they're able to like brush their arms, and you're also teaching them the life skill of bathing themselves, right? It's like you're grabbing a nighttime routine and you're teaching independence little by little. So when you get that brush, they can go ahead and brush themselves. The sibling can do it next to them. And then you go ahead and you give them 5 minutes. You put on a like white noise music, or meditation music is one of my favorites. You get light up balls for the visual, or an ocean projector. But I like the light up balls because it's a reflection in the water, and children with special needs really love the water, and they love that like reflection. So I've always found that really powerful with my clients. And then you have a visual strip on the mirror of the bathroom of a visual schedule of what's coming next. So that way they have an understanding. When you set up your home like that, you're able to teach the sibling also why, right? You're able to teach the sibling, Olivia has a little bit of a harder time communicating, or Olivia has a hard time with asking for things. And with the visual schedule, you're able to tell Olivia, okay, Olivia, we're all done with brush. Next, we're going to do the light up balls. Then have Olivia request for it. Want, and then she can point to light up balls, where you have a visual schedule in the bathtub.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I know I like kind of spit it all out at you, but can you kind of get that visual of what I was talking about?
I can.
Okay, perfect. And again, if you want to chat afterwards, totally open for that too. I'm here as a resource for you guys. So with that communication, when you have a visual schedule, when you have opportunities that your child understands what's coming next, you're able to help them request independently of what they want. Okay. And then you're also able to teach the sibling at the same time what you could be, how their sibling is communicated, and why you're doing what you're doing. So explain emotional regulation, explain sensory, because children, we need to show them, not tell them. And that's the biggest thing with siblings. Okay. Michael, Carrie, any feedback from you guys? Let me see the chat here of anything that you would like to specifically talk about. I know we're going over a little bit of time, but any questions that you guys have?
I'm all good on my end. Kid's 5 months old, so just here to generally learn.
Perfect. Okay, so 5 months old. What's their name?
His name is Miles August. He's currently still at Primary Children's, so hopefully we'll be able to bring him home eventually, and just kind of wanted to make sure we set him up for success.
Let me know if you see Brooke Buck there. She's a NICU nurse. She's one of my really good friends, and I worked with her son.
Okay,
so
yeah, we are in the cardiac ICU, so we skipped the NICU completely.
Okay, well, and Michael too, I did an internship with child life specialists, and I even integrated sensory and a lot of things for the babies when we were in the NICU and the PICU with that as well. So if there's any items that we can even give your baby to help with those senses, a big thing is like even just helping them with certain brushes, like just touch their fingers or like different visuals to help with them. So of course, I don't know specifically, what's going on with your child, but if you wanted to talk afterwards, there's a lot of cool resources and toys that you can even put while your baby's there to help with sensory for their development as well.
Perfect. Yeah, we've done, we hope, a pretty good job. He's obsessed with balloons because he can move his limb and watch the reaction. And then been using quite a bit of like oral stimulation, just because he's been fed through a feeding tube, making sure that he has stuff to look at. I mean, thankfully, an ICU is very stimulating in itself because there's always people moving, walking, and talking. So he is getting that. And then he's also getting the attention of hundreds of his brand new friends every single day. So from meeting and interacting with people is always really good. But yeah, if you ever have any other insight or things we can do while he's there, it would be great.
Yeah, I would love to. We can chat afterwards for sure. I know Primaries is fantastic. They have an amazing team. I'm sure you've met their child life specialists. I know a few of them over there. They're a great team. So he's in good hands. Carrie, do you have any questions regarding today's conversation or anything you would like to go over with your kids?
Sorry, I'm here with my grandkids, so I'm a little distracted. I'm listening to everything, and this is great.
No,
did you have ideas for time management within the home?
Yes. Which setting are you referring to specifically? Like kitchen, bedroom?
Probably just the bedroom, like trying to make sure that she gets up when she's supposed to, that she takes the appropriate amount of time in the, nighttime routine with bed and everything. She has super high anxiety, and I've used the clocks that like count down. I've used the wall like prompts, like visual prompts, but it's anytime that I bring out any of those things, she gets super anxious and doesn't want to do that. But she doesn't, and the very first thing she does every morning is text me and like, how long is that, short, medium, or long? And then like she doesn't even, anyways. Yeah. Any ideas on time management would be great.
How old is she?
She's 18.
Okay.
She has great verbal skills. Has Down syndrome, and she is the only child at home, but yeah.
Okay. So I was going to suggest one timer, but she's a little older for that. So what I started doing with my sister, because she actually got really annoyed with the timers as well. It was almost like, oh my gosh, my sister's going to come in and tell me what to do next. Like it was really hard for her. So I understand. I sympathize with you. One of the things that we tried with her was does she understand like how to just look at a clock?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Does she have her own phone?
Yes.
Okay. Giving them the opportunity to do it independently, even if they mess up a little bit, is what's going to help that frustration a lot. So for Angie, I did a visual schedule for her in her room, or a written one in her case. And I just said, okay, from 8 to 8:15, you need to be getting dressed. And then she would just set the timer herself. Because I think what happens is that when we set the timer for them and when we come in to remind them, that's when the frustration is. But when we give them the opportunity to do it independently, it takes away that frustration with us.
Oh, that's a great idea. Okay.
Yeah. So what I would do, and just tell her like, hey, we're going to practice this. And talk to her like, I want you to do this by yourself. You are beautiful. You are independent. I want to give you everything to do this by yourself. Can we practice doing this so you can do it by yourself? And you'll see a difference in response from her. And then you'll say, okay, I'm going to help you with 2 things. I'm going to remind you of 2 things. So let's say she has 5 items on her morning routine. Okay. And if you tell her, okay, today I'm going to help you with 3 things. Which 3 things do you want me to remind you of? And then the other 2 you're going to do by yourself. And then have her mark off which one she wants you to remind her of, and then which one she wants to be reminded of herself.
Okay,
As weeks go by and she's getting great with it, decrease that. I'm going to help you with 2 things today, or I'm going to help you with 1 thing today. And then little by little, that daily habit is going to be completely her being independent, doing it by herself.
great.
But what I would do is just kind of put it in like a dry erase. They sell them on Amazon, and then I just attach it to like my sister's door or a desk or whatever her preference is. And then we would just dry erase it every day instead of reprinting something every day.
That's a great idea.
Because when you make it a daily habit and a routine, she's going to learn quickly and more independently, and it's going to decrease the frustration a little bit because she's 18. And with Angie, when she started getting around that age, she was like, I just, it's the teenager. Like, they kind of want to just do it by themselves.
Yeah.
They don't want mom or anyone telling them what to do. Right.
Yeah, it's
So we just
that
gotta put it back.
independence, but not able to
Mhm.
really follow through and do it correctly. So, okay,
Yes.
that's
And with
awesome.
yeah, awesome. Okay. So
Also,
I will,
Can I ask you
yeah.
another question? You talked
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
the table, like the folding help that
Mhm.
you had for her. What I was looking online while you were talking and trying to find one. What do you suggest a certain type?
Yes. So because she's 18, so I'll send you the 2 items, like the links that I have for Angie.
Great.
It's, you just put the shirt in and then you just fold it like this, like 4 ways, and the shirt's folded.
That's
And
awesome.
it's fantastic. And then the laundry sorter actually has a board on top of it that I help Angie differentiate the laundry assortment. So she
Okay.
does her laundry independently, and then she can fold everything right there. Or she
Oh,
just
I
takes it to
love
her
that.
room.
That sounds like a
Yeah.
great idea. Okay.
Yeah, I
Thank
feel like
you.
life skills is, yeah, you're so welcome. So I'll go ahead and send Sylvia all the notes and everything that we talked about today. And the last question is, what is your therapy as a great sister to be present for autism, if that makes sense? I think my biggest suggestion is involving them in professionals and not feeling like as a parent, you're the only one to teach the siblings how to understand their siblings. I think that was the biggest life changer for me, is when my parents gave me the opportunity to learn from other people and other professionals and other advocates. And they always asked me, hey, we have a meeting for Angie at school. Do you want to be involved in it? And let me have that choice. And I always said yes. So just giving them opportunities to always learn, no matter what their age is powerful. That's my biggest suggestion. So Sylvia, I want to thank you and everyone for jumping on. Any other questions? Like, Sylvia has my contact info. I'm always here as a resource for you guys.
Yeah, Natalie, thank you so much. We'll send those documents out to everyone, and we'll make this recording available for those who were not able to join, or if you had other things going on during the presentation. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. I love how interactive this was. Thank you everyone for participating and being here this morning. And we hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.